What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I got an update for you today on more of the NFL's plans for how they're going to do things going forward. Today it is in regard to the preseason and some changes that they are potentially looking to make for the preseason for 2020. So let's get right into it. The NFL and the NFLPA are reportedly discussing shortening 2020 preseason from 4 to 2 games. Now, there's a couple different aspects of this that we're going to talk about, but let's go ahead and get through this article real fast. The NFL and NFL Players Association are reportedly considering cutting the preseason schedule in half, per NFL Network's Tom Pelissero, even though no decision has been finalized or is imminent. The league and union are discussing shortening the preseason to 2 games. NFL teams have already announced their schedules with 4 preseason games, but Pelissero noted shortening the exhibition season would give the league a longer ramp-up period to the regular season. So we'll talk about that in a second, what that means. One key element mentioned by Pelissero would be allowing medical experts to finalize game day protocols for testing and other procedures that will need to be in place. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell has said the league is operating as if the 2020 regular season will start on time. NFLPA Executive Director Damari Smith wasn't as definitive as Goodell during a recent appearance on HBO's Real Sports with Brian Gumbel. When asked how confident he is on a scale of 1 to 10 that the season will be played, Smith said, well, UVA law graded on a curve, so I'm going to go with probably a 6-7. The preseason is scheduled to kick off with the Hall of Fame game between the Dallas Cowboys and Pittsburgh Steelers on August 6th. The Pro Football Hall of Fame reopened Wednesday after closing March 16th because of the coronavirus pandemic. So there's a couple different aspects to this. First and foremost, before we even get to the pandemic, let's discuss what this actually would mean for, the team and all of that stuff going forward, right? So I had read an article by Alan Pupar a little while ago that basically said, whatever. For fans, preseason is boring, so whatever, we don't give a shit. And for the teams, what does it really fucking matter? They don't really even fucking, fringe guys are fringe guys and they don't really make the team, so who fucking cares from a team perspective? That was essentially the article he wrote. Okay, I mean, I guess if you just want to be super simple about it, but it's not quite that simple. So look, I mean, from a fan's perspective, I do somewhat agree, right? The preseason's just kind of whatever. I do like watching the games, and I usually do live streams and so on and so forth and whatnot. And I do like to get my eyes on some of the young players and whatever. And then I do also like to see, the gradual ramp up for the starters. And then, third game is the debut, blah, 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 the dress rehearsal, whatever. Before the fourth game being just all fringe guys to see if they can, do something to make the roster, right? I actually kind of like that setup. I would consider maybe dropping 1 game and making it down to 3. But I think, dropping it to 2 is too limited. Why? Because then, well, think about it. And Alan Pupar put this in his article, and he talked about how, well, what does that mean? That means that you're going to play your starters considerably more in those 2 games, which to some degree absolutely makes sense because, but this is an argument for why 2 games is not enough, right? Because to some degree, if you only had 2 games, that would make sense because you need to get your starters, but it doesn't give you anywhere near enough time to be able to evaluate the other, right? Because you drop down to 53 with a 10-man practice squad, so 63 altogether, but you start with 90, which means you cut 27 guys, right? So, with less time, with less games, it's kind of unfair to those fringe guys. They don't get anywhere near an opportunity to showcase what they have. Not as much of it anyway, especially with the limited offseason, not as much FaceTime, right? So you already have, and when I say FaceTime, I don't mean the app. I mean in-person time on the field. Obviously, it's already caused a lot of problems there. It's a very new, young team. with new coaches, new systems, all of that stuff. So they're already massively hindered. So, and obviously I'm talking a little bit more specifically about the Dolphins. So they're not going to have, ample time to evaluate any of these guys. So they'll just end up cutting guys and kind of defaulting. And that could be a problem. Right? So what do I mean by defaulting? Defaulting meaning like the guys that they decide to put on the 53-man roster will be, their draft picks from last year, their draft picks from this year, well, because they were their draft picks. Or, the big name free agents that they signed because they are overpaid and have big contracts or whatever, right? Or even just some of the guys that were just around from last year just simply because they were here last year and they've had more of a hands-on experience with those guys, right? Even if some of the younger guys, right? So I guess what I'm saying is it lessens the chance of you being able to find, hidden gems that end up usurping some of the guys that might be a little bit higher on your depth chart to start with, because you don't have the proper time and evaluation opportunities for these guys. And then it doesn't give them, these young players, they got to come into a whole new system, and they got to build chemistry with, their quarterbacks or their other players that they're playing around, all this stuff. So they might not get, the opportunity to even really play their best, right? Whereas like by the time you get to game 4, and then it's all fringe guys or whatever, they've had all of training camp where they're, on the field building chemistry together, OTAs and all of that. OTAs have been canceled, right? So like all of that, they're missing out on all of that. And then by the time they get to game 4, they have at least played in the first few games, right? And so they've gotten some live action, and they're not going to have any of that. So there's that, right? So it's definitely unfair to the fringe players. And certainly it's not anywhere near an ideal situation if you're talking about from a team perspective of building the best team that you can with that pool of players that you have. You're not going to be afforded, especially then with also, these necessary, I would say necessary yet not enough, protocols being put in place of, the rotating people within the facility of, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, right? They can't all be there together. And again, it's necessary, although I don't think it's going to work. That's why I said not enough. But, with that comes along the fact that they obviously can't have everybody there together at the same time. So that makes things far less efficient. So there's all of that. Okay. But then let's look at the final perspective of like the corporate front office fucking, whatever, NFL owners side of this, right? So because there is the aspect of this that part of the reason, and he said it, right? A longer ramp up period to the regular season. So what does that mean, right? So that means if they cut the preseason by 2 games, right? That means they push the schedule back by those 2 weeks, right? So that gives them more time. A couple things. One, obviously it would give them more time to evaluate the situation, and it could be a good thing if they did it properly and if they cared to do it properly, right? It could give them more time to evaluate the situation, get more data, etc., etc. But when you have when it was clear that, states were opening up too early, when you have, people like politicians like the governor in Florida who are actively suppressing the real numbers, etc. And then on top of that, yesterday, I got a news alert that 12 states are seeing record numbers in new cases, right? So like it's surging, it's spiking, it's all of this. But despite all that, they're still pushing to make sure that it opens up on time. They're trying to buy themselves some time by shortening the preseason, right? Which ultimately I believe will end up hurting all of the teams and their evaluation abilities. It's going to be unfair to a lot of the young players, et cetera, who are going to get cut without proper evaluation or proper tape. That's 2 games less of tape that they have, right? So, but it's all for a buck. It's also that way the NFL can, put off this appearance as if they're doing absolutely everything in their ability to make sure that it's safe and all this, that, and the other, and they're going to be able to go into it without having a surge and spikes and like mass outbreaks among the teams and the players and the coaching staffs and blah, blah, blah. And, that you don't got to worry about, people dying. They're trying to convince people of that. And it's working, certainly to some degree. A lot of people are absolutely convinced. And I'm fairly certain that if it goes along this trajectory, if it continues along this trajectory, I have no doubt that if the NFL says come start of the year, right? Now, I mean, frankly, we're only going to we don't even have to wait because they fill seats for preseason games, but the Hall of Fame game, right? They fill seats for that. So we'll see. Before regular season. But if they go in that and say, yeah, we're going to have fans at these games. All right, hear me now, quote me later, mark my words. They will have outbreaks of the coronavirus, and it is going, and then, at that point it's too late, but because then it would have already happened and the damage would be done. So even if they, shut down or whatever, which at that point obviously would be the best thing, but it would be too late, and it's all for their money. It's all for that, because again, that they would lose. Without fans, they would lose 40% of their revenue. If they didn't have a season at all, that's like 100% of their revenue. So like, or close to it. So they're gonna push. It's gonna be a disaster, but this is what they want, and so we'll see what happens. And look, you guys heard it here. I haven't been, life's been crazy and super busy, even though I haven't been actually working. There's obviously a lot of other things going on, but I'm not like watching, the other YouTubers and stuff a lot, but from what I can tell, the commentary has been more focused on, strictly football, and they're trying to ignore, for the most part, the, until they absolutely have to face it, and that's ridiculous. But you hear it from me, I've been talking about all this shit from day one, and the importance of it, and the magnitude of it, and how it's going to affect all of this. And the further we go on, the more I'm being proven correct. It's just they are like, we'll see, man. I hope it doesn't get to the levels that I think it will get to, but it just depends on their actions, and it depends on how much they keep pushing for this. And at the current projected trajectory that we're on, man, it's not going to be good. So hopefully it doesn't happen, and I don't know. I don't see it being possible. Anyway, I just don't see there being a 2020 season without massive ramifications regarding this virus. I just don't think it can happen. I don't think they're going to be able to have a full season without having outbreaks and people dying and so on and so forth. I just don't think it's possible. So, but we'll see. If they do have outbreaks and they continue to try and push through that, at that point, they are just, I think they're already just about as bad as they can be, but that has to be a breaking point. If I would hope for most people that would have to be a breaking point. If they start the season, this how I'll end it, right? So if they start the season, okay, and they try and pack stadiums and get people in there, and they do that, they even if it's limited capacity, right, or partial capacity, then, and if there's outbreaks and people get sick, and if people die from that shit, which is extremely likely, and then they keep pushing, that has to be a break, because then there will be no question that they literally just don't care about people's lives. I think they've already made that quite clear, but they will literally, there will be no more clarity needed. There's just wouldn't be any argument at that point. So if that happens, I hope people wake up, and I hope they realize that the NFL and the owners only give a shit about their money. Okay, and so we'll see. I hope they look, just like I say about the Dolphins and the path that they're on. I don't like it. I don't think they're doing the right things, but I hope that they prove me wrong. I really do. I hope that the NFL grows a conscience. I'm not really sure that's a thing. I'm actually more convinced people start with them and then it gets, removed from who they are through various methods and experiences in life, tragedies, hardships, whatever. Anyway, so I hope they grow a conscience and they do the right thing, but if they don't, I really hope that people wake the fuck up. Anyway, with that, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspective. And if you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.